Good afternoon, everyone. I am Kylie Hassan with Mission West Virginia, and we are here with the Krawczyk family and Sarah Milburn with Burlington United Methodist Family Services Foster Care Agency. So thank you guys for joining us today for our first fostering conversation. Yeah, so we're going to get started here, and I will start with telling you about Mission West Virginia and our role and what we can help you with. So Mission West Virginia is a nonprofit located in Putnam County in Hurricane, West Virginia, and our Frameworks program serves the entire state of West Virginia. So we serve all 55 counties, and we serve as a neutral recruiting source and a friend to those who are interested in being a foster parent in West Virginia. So the Frameworks program works with foster, adoptive, and kinship relative families, and we recruit families to foster and adopt. We work to find families who are waiting for children who are legally eligible for adoption, and we support kinship and relative families and engage in educational advocacy for foster youth. So we're here to provide support and get families linked up with a provider like Burlington in your community who can certify you as a foster adoptive parent. So if you've been waiting to become a foster parent, we urge you to take the first step today, and hopefully after our conversation, this will help you and ease your fears. So I'm going to start by introducing Sarah Milburn with Burlington United Methodist Family Services. They are one of the 11 private agencies in the state that can certify families for foster or adoption.
Thank you, Kylie. So like Kylie said, my name is Sarah Milburn, and I actually work with Burlington here in our Martinsburg location. I'm a foster home evaluator. Burlington is a grassroots organization here in West Virginia, and they've been around since 1913. We have offices throughout the state. So, of course, we have one here in Martinsburg, and then we have multiple other offices all the way down towards Beckley. So we do serve a majority of the state. We, of course, have our foster care program, as well as several other programs that work specifically with children and their families. And that's kind of Burlington in a nutshell.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And so now we're going to talk to Brandon and Jenny Krawczyk, who are a foster family with Burlington.
Hello.
How are you guys doing today?
Good. How are you guys doing?
We're awesome. So tell us a little bit about your family and how you became to be foster parents.
So basically, we've been together for almost 7 years now, over 6 years, and there's a little bit of an age difference. So we ran into some fertility issues when we tried to conceive naturally. She has a daughter from a previous marriage, actually 2 children, but I had none of my own yet. So we expressed interest in it and kind of talked about it, and we had some issues conceiving naturally. So we started weighing our options, and IVF is always an option, but it's not a guarantee, and it's obviously very, very pricey. So we just hopped online one evening and started looking about adopting, and we found out very quickly through research that it's not practical to assume that you can just, it's not like car shopping. You can't just put in a, desired make, model, and age, and, here you are. So we started talking about foster agencies and stuff like that. And the first thing that came up was Mission West Virginia. So it's kind of how it all started. And we got in touch with Burlington. They were one of the few agencies that were very responsive and getting back to us. They were very quickly became like the front runner within, how we felt of the best, experience that we had when we first tried to get into it. So, and, kind of the rest is history.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think it's great to find, everyone has to find the right agency for their family, a perfect fit. And that's great. So tell us a little bit about your fostering experience, about how many or about how long have you guys been doing this?
We've been about a year and a half. We started out, our first placement were 3 little ones under the age of 5. And we realized very quickly, after obviously we said, yes, let's do it. We couldn't wait for our first phone call. So we were like, yes, let's do it. And we realized that later that night that we couldn't fit them in our car. So we needed 2 car seats and a booster, and it wouldn't work. So unfortunately, obviously, so, Sarah had to look for another home for them, and we were heartbroken. And we thought, oh my goodness, we hope, this doesn't keep us from getting more placements. And the phone rang within a week. Yes. Right? Yeah. The phone rang within a week, and we got our second placement, 2 other little girls. And, it went very well. We have had bumps in the road. That to start out, obviously we know all the things that we have to do within that first couple days. And after that first week, you get all of your appointments in, and then it's, you start to level out and get to have fun and learn about the kids. That can be a little hard at first, getting to know them. They're usually afraid, this is a new environment, new people. They've only ever, even if they're in a bad situation, it's the only situation that they know, that's still home to them. It's still their parents. They don't understand, why is all this happening? There's a lot of whys. We talk to them the best we can to explain it in the way that we've been trained, obviously not to give up too much information, but still to make them feel comfortable. Without making any promises, of course, in any direction. And after that first week or 2, usually it's pretty smooth sailing. There's not, it's not hard after, I'm not gonna say it's not hard, but there are things after that you get to experience with them. They start to open up and tell you things and be more comfortable and want to do things. And it's amazing how quick they become attached sometimes. And it's not, I think some people have this false sense that you're getting troubled kids, only troubled. And that's not the way it is at all. We, again, had a little girl that we sent home in September that we had for a year. We still get to have contact with her. We've seen her several times since she was reunified with her dad. We talk to her on the phone, we do Skype. That is the hardest part for us, is giving back. We, at one point, we thought we were going to get to adopt her. It just didn't work out that way. Her dad actually turned around and done very well. We're very happy for him. He's a good guy. He is like the model bio parent in our eyes. He did so well, and we're so happy for him. We still talk to him all the time, but it's hard. It's hard giving back. That's probably the hardest.
Right. And I think you guys make a really important point about, you may, when you go into fostering, you may get placements and you may get that attachment. And all the while, their birth parents may be working on themselves and trying actively to get their children back. And so that's happened to you guys. So can you talk a little bit about what it's been like working with a birth family?
Yeah, so back to the attachment thing, just before I forget, like the attachment is instantaneous. Like there's no way to describe it. Like people think, oh, I can never, like that's somebody else's kid, and but like the first 3 that we got, it was our first placement, so there's a lot of sentimental value there within us. We had them for like 3.5 days, literally less than 72 hours, and it was like we were both sitting here in the living room like bawling like babies when they came to pick them up. Like it was just like, we're like, oh yeah, we have that many seatbelts, but you don't think about car seats and all that stuff. So it just didn't work. They actually got placed with their forever family, and their big day is actually tomorrow. So that's a great story in and of itself. But bio families are, they can be challenging. A lot of times in the beginning, what we've learned is that like in the beginning when everything's fresh, It's a fresh wound emotionally. So like they just got their kids taken. They're getting so much criticism from, possibly law enforcement, obviously this department, and now the agency becomes kind of the middleman between us and them as far as setting up visits, if that's going to be allowed, and briefing us on court hearings and proceedings and what's going on. So there's a lot of like uneasiness. We're kind of spoiled because the girl that we still keep in contact with, I mean, they told us from the get-go that like, he's doing everything he's supposed to, and they could fall off the wagon at any time. It's especially because some of them struggle with substance abuse and stuff like that. So obviously a lot of addicts don't remain, the way they should at sometimes. It's easy to stray off and get back on and stuff like that as far as doing what you're supposed to. But he was amazing. He did what he was supposed to from Jump Street, and he's been great. So they told us like not to expect him, you know what I'm saying? But we've worked with some other ones too, and it's very challenging in the beginning, but I think a lot of them, when you get to talk to them and understand, you have to look at them, just as a human being, just like the rest of us. They may have made some mistakes, and sometimes it's a lot of miscommunication. So I mean, the department, they can't go off of like, oh, this was something simple. When they remove a kid, when there's enough to remove a kid, then there's obviously there's a whole lot of protocols that have to take place. So a lot of times, if they do what they're supposed to, it ends up in a success story. But it can be challenging, but the main thing is to keep the common ground that this is about the child and reunification is the goal. So let's meet in the middle, let's be grown up about it, and let's handle what we have to for the kids' sake. And if you approach it like that, it usually works out.
And
okay.
One thing, obviously with Burlington, and I'm sure it's like this with other agencies too, we don't have to come in contact with the bio parents, at least not right away, because visits are supervised. If we're dropping off a child, we go there first and we leave. The bio parent is scheduled to come, a little bit later to be sure we're all in the clear, and then they leave before we get back to, so there's really no interaction until you get to the point that you feel comfortable. Our experience, we showed up early one day, he was still there, we got to talking, and it was fine,
Sure.
and it isn't always like that. We did have one more experience with a bio mom that was not positive, only, for personal reasons, obviously, but it wasn't great.
We were able to be cordial, but
Right.
it was nothing like the
Yeah.
initial experience we had with the first
Sure.
bio dad.
And we did try very hard. We tried very hard, to do the right thing with her and keep her in the loop anytime that we came face to face. And she was just mad at the world. So we left it alone. But you see both ends of the spectrum, and anytime that you can have that relationship, I think it's great, because
Everything's so much easier.
and the kids feel so much better.
Sure.
They're like, they see that everyone's getting along.
And that helps within our home,
Yeah.
our connection with them, because they don't see the tension and the back and forth, because the stuff that the younger girl knew, the little one that we just had to give back, the stuff that she knew at 2 years old, just about social skills and, emotional attachment was just amazing. Like they pick up on so much at a young age, even just tension that nobody even talks about. It's very affecting to them.
Yeah. And
Sure.
the difference between ages, when the little ones, they obviously only have very limited information, and they immediately from our experience, they just attach really quick. And the little girl we had immediately started calling us mommy and daddy, and on her own, which, we didn't know what to do at first. So we're on the phone with Burlington,
God,
and we're like, what do we do? She's calling us mom, and they're like, let her do what she's comfortable with. And we did, and it worked out just fine. Now, her older sister did not like it. She corrected her every time.
But the little ones are
And-
just so pure,
Right,
it's
they
just,
don't know.
this is what,
Yeah. And I think you guys, it makes a good point of every child is different that comes into your home. And you guys made a really good point on, when talking with birth families, I think the important thing to remember is that even if parents mess up, I think there is no doubt that they love their children. They just may not know how to properly do that. And they can, while they're working and everything's cordial, children do feel that when everything's, in harmony together. So you talked about how, when a situation came up and you didn't know how to respond, you called your agency and asked for their advice. What's your experience when you went through, what did training look like and the home visits and things like that? How did Burlington help you through those things?
We went through training. It was obviously pre-pandemic, but it was very informative, very easy to go through. Obviously, there's a lot of, stuff you got to do, paperwork and clearances and stuff like that to get you prepared and qualified. But like, as far as the training, we thought it was really fun.
Yeah,
and informative.
we met another family that we're very close with.
We sat down the very first training. We kind of had a similar schedule to another family. So it was like the four of us, it was just us and another family at the time for that, I guess, round of classes or whatever. We sat down with Sarah, and like within the first 5 minutes, we like struck up a conversation. It was really fun.
We found out they lived 2 streets from us.
Yeah, 2 streets up from us in the development at the time. So it was like, and the first group that we got was actually a sibling group. We had the 2 girls. They got placed with the 2 boys because that county was willing to split them. Sometimes when the department removes them, the way the referral comes in, sometimes they're willing to split sibling groups because obviously not everybody has room for, 4 kids at a time, 2 girls, 2 boys, whatever. So it just worked out perfect. And they had them for the length of their case, and so did we, obviously. So
then we would do respite for each other. They would bring them here for play dates. We would go when in the summertime, go outside and there's a big field down the street. Everybody would play football in. And so it worked out very well. We had fun with the trainings and
teaches you a lot.
Yeah.
Like, you don't look at things
and then
the same way.
Sarah got to come into our home probably at least 5 or 6 times. And we got to sit down and talk and really get to hear her stories and her perspective on how things work, so that we understood it better. And, we tried as hard as we could. Obviously, it's a lot to take in. And you can think you're ready. You really can. You think you're ready until you get that first placement, and then you have questions. And you're like,
and there's
oh
only so much training can prepare you for, because it's life.
Sure.
There's a human aspect to everything. Because like you talked about, Jenny, about the, they're troubled. They're not all like trouble, like labeled. But there's not one kid you're going to get that's going to be your cookie cutter normal kid, because no matter what, they just got taken from everything they know. And we had another placement where, she was like 10 years old. She walked in the door, walked upstairs. We showed her the room that we had ready for her. She put her stuff down, plopped down the couch, and was like, I've been through this before. Yeah, and that to me, that was like,
she put her clothes away and was like, what are we having for dinner?
Right. Like it was like nothing,
She's been fine.
But either way, when you get right down to the nitty gritty, like they're still a kid, they're just a kid. That's all it is. So I think people think that it's like this big, like a big deal, which it is a big deal. But I think people really put a label in there's a fear aspect, because you never know what you're getting, and you don't. But at the end of the day, they're just children that need you. And that's probably the biggest thing to hammer home and remember.
And the trainings do teach you a lot, obviously, about what you can and can't do, what you should and should not talk about,
how to answer certain questions,
right,
and how to handle certain situations.
It's definitely needed. And Burlington is
but it's awesome having an agency that you can call to.
They're very thorough. There's an on-call number 24 hours a day. Anyone is at your beck and call. And believe me, we use it all the time when we have an issue. And we have never called that number and not gotten an answer. Usually by the second ring, somebody's picking up and they know who it is right away. And we've never, ever had any issues. I mean, our worker has come out here at midnight, to help us. And, transports, if we have to work and we can't get to a doctor's appointment, obviously that's not something that you should take advantage of and overuse it. But there have been times where there have been appointments that we can't get to, that we get help out with transports, phone calls that need to be made, therapies that need to be scheduled, referrals, they take care of pretty much all of that stuff for you. And, you know, a lot of people, one question that we get, because we talk, promote all the time about Burlington. And you wouldn't believe the first like thing that most people say to us is, isn't that crazy expensive? You have to like, you know, you have to be rich. You fork out so much of your own money. You have to add them to your insurance. You know, people don't understand that part of it, that you get a lot of help. And, you know,
it's about the kids, you know,
right.
And if you were ever, the way I think what helped us, okay. I think what helped us with the, with that aspect of it was like, you know, if you're trying to have a kid and you're trying to make your family a little bigger, is that the way you're really going to look at things? You know, like if you're going to open up your house to help take care of a child, you can't have that type of, you know, perspective on it, you know?
Right. Yeah, I think that's a great outlook. Sarah, coming from an agency point of view, talk a little bit about, you know, you guys are there as a support for foster families. So what kind of different support services can Burlington offer foster families?
So I guess I should only talk about post-pandemic, because pre-pandemic, we did some things that we can't do now. So post-pandemic, really, we just try to do or be there in any way that we possibly can for any way in which a family may need us. So during the pandemic, we've dropped off activity bags. So we've had bags that we've put together with things that were donated to us. So toys, games, activities, blankets, stuffed animals, that kind of stuff. We've kind of done what we joked around at the office and called ding dong ditch. So run up to the porch, drop off the bag, hopefully get a glimpse of everybody, because it was really hard when we couldn't see our families face to face. So we'd try to and wave at the window and everything. During Halloween, we dropped off goodie bags for all of our kids. We had our annual foster parent training during the pandemic.
That was interesting.
We had to do that virtually. Ran into some hiccups with that, which I think everybody who's had to get used to using Zoom or doing this online technology has run into those hiccups. But
yeah,
again, we dropped off goodie bags for that. So we put in snacks and the handouts for the training, t-shirts, because we had t-shirts made for all of our foster parents. So we did that to try to as closely resemble training pre-pandemic. I'm trying to think. A lot of our trainings right now, we've moved to online formats for as many of them as we can. There are some that still need to be face-to-face, such as doing a CPR certification that has to be face-to-face.
Sure.
But the others we've moved to online. I'm trying to think. I mean, really, it's just we try to be whatever our families need us to be in that moment.
Yeah, I think, you know, looking at COVID this past year has really made us all turn on our heads and try to figure out new things. And across the board, you know, as Mission West Virginia, we talk to each agency, and I think, you know, foster care agencies are putting the safety and the support of the entire family, foster, adopt, and including birth children. You know, if families have birth children, they're including them in all of those services at home. And I think, you know, change is rarely easy, you know, especially during a national pandemic. But the agencies have not let this strange year, you know, stop them from reaching the community, you know, and agencies like Burlington have implemented those virtual accommodations for trainings to become certified. And then also those other little things like, you know, those family fun packets. And I think that, you know, we don't think about when families are all stuck at home and everyone's kind of driving each other crazy. You know, we're all stuck here at home. We're not seeing other people. So those little family fun things that the agency can provide It's keeping people interactive. It's keeping people connected. And you, Brandon and Jenny, you guys talked a little bit about earlier how you have met other foster families, and it's been, really helpful to you as a foster parent. Talk a little bit about, what it's like to meet other foster families and talk to other people that have been through this as well.
We, of course, like we said, the family that we met during training that lived up the street, we not only through the children, but we have become close with them. And so they come to our house for cookouts, just fun nights. I mean, of course, we haven't been able to do it as much as because of COVID, but we did coordinate with them for the little girl that we had. It was her birthday, so we were allowed to do something small outside. So we invited them, of course, but then we've done respite for a couple other families, and other families have done respite for us. So we've got to know those parents, and we feel like we could reach out to them if we were in a pinch. And, sometimes our daycares are closed. Obviously, daycares have been closed a good bit here and there for COVID. We've been under quarantine 3 times, and we feel comfortable enough that we could reach out, because obviously, you have to be careful who you're leaving your kids with these days. And also foster children, you want to make sure that anyone that you ask to babysit is also certified. But we do feel comfortable, any of the people that we've met that we could reach out to, that they would help us just as we would help them if they needed it. But we have actually had a lot of fun. And like Sarah said, the annual training, we would like to have been there in person, but we actually got to put a face with all the names we've been hearing. So that was fun. And, if that was an all-day thing. So we kind of got to hear a lot of stories, and we know that we're not the only ones who have been through some ups and downs, and we got to hear a lot of the funny stories. And it puts a more comforting spin on the system, because it sometimes has such a bad rep. People don't understand that, even just the satisfaction you get, no matter whether it's the outcome that everybody wants, that you did your part. And to us, that's, a big comfort, no matter how it turns out.
Yeah, it sounds like, there's different levels of different support, whether that's through friends and a family that you've made, respite services, your agency, your worker. So it sounds like there's lots of different ways that families can feel supported.
Absolutely.
Well, I also wanted to because I always kind of forget about it with Brandon and Jenny, because Brandon and Jenny are not on Facebook. But we do have a Facebook group for our foster parents as well, to where foster parents can connect through Facebook. If they want to or need to, they can do that kind of thing. And then usually with new families, we try to connect our new families with a more senior family. And we've really started doing that more just because of the pandemic, because we want to add to all of our families' kind of support systems, and get them in touch with somebody that can answer some of those questions.
I think that's a great idea, to connect those families that are brand new with kind of a seasoned veteran foster family. I think that's a great idea. So let's see what else we can talk about. So we've talked a little bit about, the joys of foster parenting. We've also talked a little bit about what's not easy. So if you, Brandon and Jenny, talk a little bit about what is the most meaningful thing of fostering, and what is not easy about fostering as well.
The most meaningful thing is knowing that you made a difference, because I think what the biggest thing is we get all the time too is like, I don't know how you could give them back. I don't know, because selfishly you don't want to, and you get a connection with them, and you tell yourself that if the bio parent doesn't do what they're supposed to, then you would love to have that child. Sorry.
Sorry.
You'd love to have that child, forever. So, it's not easy, and I will never say that it is. But like I said before, I think there's a fear aspect involved, and but to do what you're supposed to do, you have to love the child, and you have to get connected, emotionally, and you have to get attached. So I think that the most gratifying thing is knowing that you made a difference, but that also can be the hardest thing because you have to completely emotionally involve yourself to achieve that. So it's not easy, and I will never tell anybody that it is. But the important thing to remember that it is for the well-being of the child, and as long as everybody handles things the way that they should, usually it ends up in a way where you can have a relationship with a child, still see it every once in a while, even if it's by Skype or Zoom or something like that. So I think the important thing to remember is a success story isn't always your own selfish wishes of getting to keep the child and all that. The us giving the child back to by a dad when he did what he was supposed to and still keeping in touch with her, that is a success story in and of its own. So that's what's important to remember when it comes to that.
And even though, they can't always say thank you, they don't always know how to get that across.
It means more than anybody.
They appreciate what you've done. And to hear the stories, some of them are so sad, but to see the turnaround and to expose them to things that they've never experienced before in a positive way, and to show them, not so much, we're not trying to say, oh, life is better with us. It's not like that, but the little things that they've never done before, and simple things that they've never experienced that you can do for them, even if it doesn't have to cost money, little things. Some of these kids that, have never experienced, I don't want to say anything in particular, but just little things. And it makes us happy to see their faces light up.
When you get a wish list like that a little kid writes you, and it's like asking, like they're so excited to get like a toothbrush or a hairbrush, crayons, I want scissors so I can make crafts. Like when you have a kid like just longing for something like that, it really opens your eyes to like, oh my gosh, like what could they have been through, and like I said, I don't want to bash bio parents either, because everybody makes mistakes and everybody definitely deserves a second chance. We're not perfect people. Obviously, we believe in our ability to take care of children, but that doesn't mean we're 100% perfect humans. But when you have kids that are seriously just wishing for something so simple compared to what some kids take for granted completely, it really opens your eyes to what they may have been exposed to.
Yeah, I think you guys, hit the nail on the head there of when the little things, we're as a professional, I'm not myself a foster parent, but as a professional, we hear all the time of those first, even if kids are, 13 years old, they may have never had a birthday party before. They may have never had a cake or been trick-or-treating. So there are firsts that you can have with these kids all throughout their life at all different ages. And you're right when you say that those little things mean the very most to them. And kids may not have the capacity to articulate like we do as adults to say, thank you, this really meant a lot. But throughout their life, they remember foster parents. We've talked to adults who have previously been in foster care, and some who have aged out, who say, I may have aged out, but that time when that person put me in a family photo, I remember that. It may have been 10 years before, but they loved me enough while I was in their care to put me in their family photo. Or we've heard that kids love to just go and get the mail from the mailbox, walk outside, walk the dog around the park. Those little things mean a lot to those kids.
They like to have responsibility, but they also need to have structure. At first we thought, okay, we feel like we need to be pushovers because they've been through so much, like not just let them run wild or do whatever they want, but there have been times where we've had to, call and have conversations. What do we do? Simple things like bedtimes, just the routine. And we've discovered through trial and error and a lot of, crying, that it's been, they need that structure. They really do. And even though you feel you do to a, certain extent, you do, baby them, you do give them a little more leeway because of what they've been through, and you want them to feel comfortable. And you slowly have to introduce your routine and how you do things in your home, which may not work for them. And, one thing that we've realized in our house with all of the kids, one issue has been food. For one thing, a lot of people don't realize food is not readily available to all of these children. And so when they have it, sometimes that becomes an issue with hiding and hoarding and, gorging their food, and you have to kind of watch them and you let them, do what's comfortable with them. We've had a lot of kids who don't like what we cook for dinner, so we adapt, we buy the foods that they like. And if everybody in our house is picky, everybody eats something different. So we let everybody, kind of decide what they're going to have for dinner, and we roll with it. We don't say, we try not to make things any harder than what they've already been, with still kind of drawing a line at some point, Yeah, it's okay.
Sure. And so what are some of the most valuable lessons that you've learned from the children that have come in your care, whether they've been there for 2-3 days, or they've been there for a year, gone back home, or you've moved to adoption? What's the most valuable thing you've learned?
I think that, like I mentioned before, when you get down to it, they're just kids, and they're longing for normality, whether that be a perfect, coloring book to have, or a warm bed to sleep in. Who knows what they could have been missing, So when we talked about bedtimes and getting everybody used to everything, you get into a routine. Sarah, help me on it. I always mess up the order, but like the forming, storming.
It's forming, storming, and norming. We talk about that in training.
You learn that in training, and if you're anything like me, you'll never say it in the right order. But basically, like getting into a routine, and there's phases. There's a honeymoon period, and once everybody gets to know each other, you start to really get down to the nitty-gritty about what makes each other tick, and the right and wrong things, ways to approach certain issues with each other. So, but you learn a lot of lessons about, like, no matter how you might have been brought up, you learn a lot about what kids go through nowadays, and the best way to approach certain issues. And it's really eye-opening, the difference that you can make.
He wants the pencil. Sorry.
It's okay. No, this is real life. This is what it's like being a working parent. I think that hits home to a lot of the people, and it just, these kids are kids, no matter how you look at it. They are children, and they are deserving of love, whatever capacity that may be. They are deserving of that.
And that also falls into, I get a lot of, like, I don't think people are trying to be disrespectful, but a lot of times people are surprised that people like us are foster parents. Like, we get that all the time. Like, oh my God, like, I never would have thought you would have been a foster parent. And like, sometimes I like, okay, why? Why? Tell me why. And I have yet to find a normal answer. Like, nobody can tell me why. They just think that, there's some cookie cutter, template for what you should be. And like I said before, we're normal people. We're not perfect. Obviously, we have fertility issues and stuff like that, and our marriage is in a great place, and we love helping kids. And we've gotten past some things, to get here, but here we are, and I think everybody has something to learn from this and something to gain, and just take the leap. I don't know how else to put it other than just do it. It's an easy thing, people, it wasn't for us. It was really fun and adventurous, but like, I'm sure it can be overwhelming to some people. But obviously, with everything that's going on, it's probably easier emotionally to get into it now than it ever has been. With online training, you don't have to go anywhere. We're right here in our living room. This is the same way that Sarah does training now. So, it's a great thing to get into. Everybody has something to gain from it. It makes you really look at things in a clear way about what kids go through nowadays. And there's no, obviously, as long as you're capable of taking care of yourself and doing what you're supposed to do, and you have a level head on your shoulders, like you can be a foster parent. Like there's no right or wrong like person to get involved in this. Obviously, we're not crazy, faithful with going to church and all that stuff. But we do believe there's a higher power and all that stuff. I don't like talking about politics or faith at all. It's just not really.
Yeah, I think you make a
but
good,
like,
yeah. I
there's
think,
no right or wrong. Good.
oh, sorry, it cut out
Good,
there for
sorry.
a second. But no, I thought you made a good point where you say, there's not a cookie cutter. There's no perfect parents.
Right.
No matter who
Right.
says it, there is no perfect parents.
Yeah.
Everyone is constantly learning, whether you are a birth family, you're a foster, adoptive, a grandparent, whatever that may look like. And I think it goes along with the point of that children in foster care, there's no cookie cutter child that's in foster care. Every child looks different. Every child has specific needs, and it looks different. And I'm sure you all can talk about every, child that's come through your home, whether, you're trained as a foster parent, but each child is different and their needs are different. So we need all different types of foster families, whether,
there's a home for every child.
And the good thing is, and Sarah can touch on this more, but the good thing is, across the board, you can say, I'm comfortable with this, and I'm not comfortable with this. And, we talked a lot about what we would be willing, what placements we would be willing to take and what we could not, because I have an older daughter in the home and, we don't want her to be exposed to certain things. And so, we started off with a kind of a wide range, and we said yes to everything in the beginning. But we have realized now what we need to be more careful with, what
transparent is the best way to
house.
do,
And, selfishly, yes, we started out with this, idea, we want a baby. And we were told, straightforward from the beginning, it is hard because everybody wants a baby. And the chance that you're going to get one and actually know, you're not going to know from the beginning that you would get to adopt a baby. We took our chances and got our little guy at 10 days old and adopted him on Friday. And it was the biggest blessing ever. And some people have said to us, okay, well, you got your baby. Are you done now? No, we're not done. We're going to keep going. And, we're very blessed to have selfishly gotten what we want. Although we know that took away from his mother. It was just a different situation. And, it wasn't right for her, but it was right for us. And we're very thankful. But you can be very specific. We talked to Sarah a lot about the things that you're okay with, the things that you're not, whether boys might work better in your home or girls, this specific age or race. You don't have to just say yes to every phone call you get for a placement. And there might be times, where we'll get a call from Sarah and, she'll be like, hey, and we know as soon as she calls, like, hey.
That textbook. Yeah.
And, it's okay. You don't have to say yes. They're not going to get upset with you. If you don't think it's right or you can't make it work, you are okay. And a lot of times if you get a placement and it's not, you really, really know, that you've given it the best that you can and it's just not working out, you have to reach out. We've reached out to Burlington and, we need help with this. And they help you. You're not stuck in any way. And I think a lot of people have that misconception too. We had people say to us,
they call you, they drop them off, and that's it.
And you never see them again. That's what they think. And we're like, no, it's not like that. And you have all kinds of help, that first month, your worker comes and sees you once a week and making sure everything's okay. They're talking to the kids to make sure they're happy. It really is a group effort, and you're not doing everything on your own. It's not.
And some of the best people that we've ever been around are people that we've met through this, whether it be people that work for the department, people that work for Burlington, people that are foster, parents just like us, people that have done some of our training, to keep up with every year, stuff like that. Like some of the best people we've been around is people that we've met because of this. So, everybody has the same interest at heart, and it's a team effort. It really is.
And when you said about including, bio children, our last CPR training, my daughter, got CPR certified during the training too. You know, they included her, she gets included in everything. Everyone knows her by name, you know, she's a big help to us. You know, she understands very well now, you know, what she can and can't talk about. And obviously there's a good amount of privacy, you know, that you have to, you know, you have to be careful with social media and things like that. And, you know, obviously we don't have Facebook, but we try to be very careful about any information, not to give out too much, and to make, you know, to make the kids feel at home as much as you can without introducing them, you know, in a way that makes them feel left out. Obviously, you know, they know where they are and why they're, for the most part, the older ones know where they are and why they are where they are. But we try to make that feel more, our home feel more normal than what they've been used to, whether that's their kind of happy or not. Sometimes we don't know that for a while. And you know, it takes time. And you know, if you have fun with it and not, you know, not let everything upset you, because there are going to be things that pop up that you feel like, maybe you feel like you're not doing the right thing, or you've done something.
How did we approach this the wrong way? Stuff like that. But
yeah, I think you guys, when you said, you know, you don't always have to say yes. There are, and I think your agency staff wants to make sure that, you know, you're doing what's best for your family, first and foremost. And, you know, we may have all this capacity that we want to help children, but first and foremost, you have to make sure that what you're doing is best for you, best for that child. And I don't know, Sarah, if you want to talk about, you know, what it's like working with families, that to make them comfortable to say, hey, you don't have to say yes, and it's okay to do what's best for your family.
So Brandon and Jenny can probably agree that during the home study process, at least when I'm the home evaluator, that is one of the things that I am very honest with. During the home study process, it's something that we talk about numerous occasions. We probably talk about it. I probably talk about it to death. You will probably get tired of me talking about it. But just making sure that they have an idea of what they want, that I have a good understanding of them, of who they are as a family, and then constantly revisiting it. Because like Brandon and Jenny had said earlier, you know, they came in and said, okay, this is what we're looking for, or this is what we think we're willing to be good at. And then through placements, finding out, well, that's maybe not super great for us, and having to kind of narrow that down. And I always tell families, like, we are completely okay if you tell us no. We probably hear no way more than we hear yes. You know, and we'll even be very honest if we're calling about something that we're not 100% sure that it'll be a good fit for the family, but that we didn't want to make that decision for the family. We wanted them to have that autonomy over their family makeup and their family structure, what they felt that they were capable of managing.
Sure. Yeah.
There's only so much you know and so much you don't with that initial referral, like what they may or may not have been exposed to, any behaviors or tendencies they may or may not have.
Sure.
But, you know,
and I think it's comforting for a lot of people, because people may see that, they get into this, they take a placement that they, you know, they say yes because they just are so passionate. And then they may get something that they can't handle, and so they may feel like they failed, or they just want to quit. So I think it's important for other people to know that it's okay. Things happen. You don't know what you don't know, and sometimes you get things that are a little too much for you. But it's great that you guys, that we have that agency staff to call and say, hey, I just don't think that this is the right fit for me or the child. And so, you know, and you guys talked about that earlier, about how you had a placement early on for multiple, and it didn't work out, but then they went on to find their forever home. So it may not be the right fit for you and that child, but that doesn't mean that there's not that right family for
Right.
that child out there.
Being transparent is 100% the best way to handle that and
Yes.
everything, really.
Yeah. I think that's a great point to hit home. And so we have about 10 minutes left, and we have some people here on Facebook, and I know we've talked about this, but if you guys, Brandon and Jenny, if you could talk straight to the people who are watching right now, and what advice would you give someone who is hesitant about becoming a foster parent during a pandemic, during any normal time? What advice would you give them?
Just freaking do it.
Just do it.
I mean,
and with as uncertain as everything is, yes, some things are a little bit harder. As we said, we did go into quarantine 3 times, but our worker, Burlington went to the grocery store for us.
we literally made in Walmart online order.
Yeah.
And just like, what do they call that? Postmates or something?
Yeah.
Like,
They went
whatever,
to Tractor
yeah,
Supply,
like
got
it
our
was-
dog food.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, you name
you
it.
will not have any issues. We promise you. You seriously will be, it will make things so much more interesting in your life. You will never be bored. And, you can't really get out to do anything right now, but sometimes when our house is too quiet, we're like stir crazy. We don't know what to do. If we don't have a bunch of kids in our house, we're like, oh my gosh. And, it's funny because he tells our worker all the time, we have room for one more. Where's our phone call? So
yeah, like when she first got reunified, I was like,
yeah, we were
I was
empty
like,
nesting
yeah.
as far as
She's like, you're
fostering.
not empty nesting. You still got.
We
I'm
still
like,
have
no,
one.
we're empty nesting. Like, oh.
Yeah, but definitely, give it a try. And if
you're thinking about it at all, you should be trying it,
yeah,
or at least looking into it more than just like, hey, this might work for us. Like, give it a real shot. Go to a training. What do you have to lose?
And another thing, some people have said to us, we don't want to go through the fostering because we're afraid when it's time to give back, we would be heartbroken. And I know Sarah can probably talk about this. There are some kids who are already adoptable. Obviously, we know from what we have learned, a lot of them are a little bit older, but there are kids who are waiting that you would not. We know we have another family who just adopted, how old is Ripley? 16, 17,
Mm-hmm.
16 or 17-year-old, and obviously they have to be in your home for 6 months to make sure everything's good to go. But there are some out there who are already ready and you wouldn't have to go through. And just because they're older doesn't mean they don't need a place, and if they age out into the system and still feel like they never have a home, you could really help them and you will have a lifelong bond.
Yeah. I 100% agree to that. I think, no matter the age, we are all, even as adults, we're always calling our caregivers, our parents, our guardians, whoever it may be, to ask, hey, I'm stuck on the side of the road. What do I do? So we never outgrow the need for a parent, for a family. They could be that person for teenagers to call on, especially, during the most pivotal times of a child's life is their teenagers and when they're, growing into adulthood. So I think that's a great point too, that older kids, tend to wait longer in the system, and they are typically the ones that are waiting, legally eligible for adoption. But yes, you're right. You become a certified foster family, test that out for 6 months, and then, you can go on with that. But I think that's a great point. Sarah, did you have something else to say?
I just wanted to throw it out there. So there are a lot of kids, like you guys said, that are older, that are adoption ready. A lot of them have been sitting around in the system for a year, 2 years, 3 years. But I also just wanted to put it out there that adoption through foster care is at little to no cost to
Yes.
family.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I
I don't
do
know
want to
where
just
that
put
comes
that out
from.
there.
I don't know where the misconception comes from that it's just like, breaking the bank or something. I don't get it. But like I said earlier, you shouldn't be looking at it like that if you're trying to help a child or make your family bigger. And B, there's all the help in the world out there for you. And not, it doesn't go without noticing, obviously if you try to do what you're supposed to do, you're going to have no issues. Like if you're thinking about doing this at all, just do it. Like just do it.
Yeah. I think it's simple. It's coming from people who have done it for, a year and a half. Thank you guys so much for just sitting with us, for being honest and open. I think when we talk about foster care, we're not, pitching this easy, happy, go lucky thing that's 24/7 happy. So I think just talking with you guys and sharing your experience is more valuable than you'll ever realize. And so I thank you guys for joining us today, and congratulations on your adoption. You guys just had an adoption this past week, so congratulations on that. And Sarah, for your work on that as well. So thank you both. And Sarah, do you want to talk about, does Burlington have any upcoming trainings or events that you'd like to share?
We currently do not have anything scheduled for trainings, but we will, I imagine, have one scheduled to start probably by the end of March. Okay. You can inquire about getting a home study started, or just to get more information about becoming a foster parent. You can do that on our website, which is www.bumfs.org. Get on there, enter in some information. I'm here at our local office here in Martinsburg. You can call our local office here, talk to me. I can answer any questions you may have. And we can also be contacted through Facebook. So.
Okay, well, perfect. And if you are in a different county, Mission West Virginia can help you get started. We give information about how to get started in your county. There are 11 private agencies throughout the state of West Virginia, and not all 11 cover every county. So we're here to kind of help you figure out what agency serves your county, give you information about the fostering process, what home studies look like, what the certification process looks like. And we're also here to answer any questions or concerns that you have. If you get started and you maybe get lost along the way, or something comes up, Mission West Virginia can help you in those situations. And we stay with the family up until they are certified with an agency. And then we send them a congratulations letter and, start on to the next family. So if you are interested in becoming a foster parent, learning about what it looks like in West Virginia, feel free to contact Mission West Virginia. missionwv.org is our website. And our family liaison is able to answer your questions on her direct line, which is 304-512-0555. But again, thank you, Sarah from Burlington. Thank you to the Krawczyk family for what you guys have done. And if you will have this recording up, so if you would like to share with other family or friends who are interested in learning more about fostering in West Virginia, this will be available on our Facebook page. So thank you all for joining us today, and we will see you at the next one.
Thank you, Kylie.
Bye, guys.
Bye.